Amaka was the only child of her parents. She was precious to them, a jewel they cherished more than anything else. Her mother often said, "If anything happens to Amaka, my life is over." Her father, though a quiet man, was fiercely protective of her. That evening, the air in the neighborhood was calm. The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky with a soft orange glow. Her mother, who had been feeling a slight fever, called Amaka from the kitchen. "Amaka, please, run to the chemist and get me those drugs I told you about," she said, pressing a few naira notes into her daughter's hands. "Yes, Mommy," Amaka replied, tying her scarf properly before stepping out. The chemist wasn't far from their house, just a short walk along the busy roadside. Traders lined the street, calling out to customers. The aroma of roasted plantain mixed with the smell of fried bean cakes filled the air. Children laughed and played, chasing after old tires they rode along the sandy road. Everything seemed normal, harmless, and safe. Amaka got to the chemist, greeted the woman behind the counter, and bought the drugs. She placed them carefully inside her small handbag and turned to leave. But just as she stepped out, a young man approached her. "Please, can you check the time for me?" he asked, his voice calm and polite. Without thinking twice, Amaka lifted her wrist to check her watch. She smiled faintly and said, "It's 20 minutes to 6. But the moment the words left her lips, her entire world shifted. A fog seemed to descend on her mind. Suddenly, she couldn't remember her name, her house, or even why she was standing there. Her heart no longer beat with the urgency of someone with a destination. She stared blankly, as if her soul had been snatched away. Like someone under a spell, Amaka began to follow the stranger. No one noticed. Traders continued their bargaining, children kept playing, motorbikes zoomed past, and life moved on as if nothing unusual was happening. The young man walked confidently toward a parked car. Inside were two other men, waiting. Without hesitation or question, Amaka opened the door and sat inside. The car engine roared, and they drove off. On their way, the car stopped at a fuel station. The three men stepped out to talk and buy fuel, leaving Amaka alone. For a moment, silence wrapped around her. Slowly, fragments of memory began to return. She blinked hard, her chest rising and falling quickly. Where am I? Who are these men? As her eyes scanned the car seat, she noticed a small mobile phone one of the men had carelessly left behind. Her hands trembled as she picked it up. With all the courage she could muster, she dialed the only number her heart could still recall, her mother's. "Mommy," she whispered, tears already gathering in her eyes, "I don't know where I am, please, help me." But before she could say more, the car door flung open. The men rushed back. One slapped the phone from her hand while another pulled out a white handkerchief and pressed it against her face. A sharp chemical smell invaded her nostrils, and within seconds, darkness swallowed her. Back at home, Amaka's mother paced restlessly in the living room. The drugs were taking too long. She glanced at the clock, 8 p.m. Amaka was nowhere to be found. Fear clutched her chest. Her father, sensing something was terribly wrong, dashed to the police station. He reported the matter, and officers were dispatched. But every passing second felt like a knife tearing through her parents' hearts. When Amaka regained consciousness, she was lying on a cold cement floor. Around her was an uncompleted building with tall, unfinished walls and a high fence. A rusty iron gate sealed the entrance. Her hands and legs were tied with thick rope. 3 men stood outside, speaking in low voices. "Baba will soon come," one of them muttered. "Let's make sure she doesn't escape." "The man is paying well for her parts," another replied with a wicked grin. Amaka's eyes widened in horror. Parts. She realized instantly what they meant. They were ritual killers. Her heart raced as tears rolled down her cheeks. She whispered prayers, begging God to save her. Hours crawled by, but Baba did not arrive. Growing impatient, the men decided to leave for a while. They locked the gate and disappeared into the night. Amaka twisted and struggled against the ropes. Her wrist burned, her skin bruised, but she didn't stop. Finally, with one desperate pull, the rope loosened. She scrambled to her feet, only for her eyes to fall upon a horrific sight: human parts scattered around the building. Fresh blood pooled in dark corners. She stifled a scream, her knees shaking. "I must get out of here," she thought. Scanning the compound, she spotted a small gutter-like opening under the gate. It was barely large enough for a child, but she had no choice. Dropping to the ground, she pushed herself through, the rough edges tearing her clothes and leaving cuts on her skin. After what felt like forever, she emerged outside. To her dismay, she found herself in the middle of a thick forest. The night was pitch dark. Owls hooted, insects chirped, and unseen creatures rustled in the bushes. Fear clawed at her heart, but she didn't stop. She ran. Branches scratched her arms, thorns pierced her feet, but she kept running. Behind her, the ritualist had returned and discovered her absence. "She's gone. Spread out, find her," one shouted angrily. Torchlights danced through the trees as the men began their search. Amaka ran blindly, her lungs burning, her legs heavy. At last, she stumbled upon a small hut with a faint lantern glow inside. Desperately, she knocked on the wooden door. The door creaked open, revealing a middle-aged man with kind eyes. "Please help me," Amaka cried, collapsing at his feet. She poured out her story between sobs, trembling as she spoke. The man's expression darkened with pity and anger. He knew the kind of evil she had narrowly escaped. Without hesitation, he pulled her inside, bolted the door, and gave her water to drink. "You're safe now," he assured her gently. That very night, the man risked his own safety and led Amaka through the forest until they reached the nearest police station. Inside, she borrowed a phone and dialed her mother's number. "Mommy, it's me. I'm safe." Her mother's scream of joy echoed through the receiver. Minutes later, her parents rushed to the station. When Amaka saw them, she broke down in tears, running into their arms. They held her tightly, sobbing and thanking God for saving their only child. Not every stranger deserves your response. Sometimes, a simple reply can change your life forever.